What is it like to be efficient? I'm sure if you're like me, when you were bored in class, you may have made some paper planes. And while you may have been told off by your teacher, you were efficient. You took the resources you had around you and you created a solution to your problem of being bored. And this is what true efficiency looks like. Or is it? Is efficiency an engineering problem or a human one? Many people think of efficiency as getting the most use per unit put in. For centuries now, humans have strived to be as efficient as possible and to waste minimally. Current efforts at trying to improve efficiency include a heavy reliance on renewable energy, such as solar or wind power, electrifying heat production for less reliance on fossil fuels, or the welcoming of AI into the mechanical engineering industry. These processes work well in the short term, but long term, they're just too unreliable. And in the case of renewable energy, sometimes dependent on factors that engineers cannot always control. This is why a more efficient proposal comes in the form of metamaterials. These are nanoscopic materials which have been scientifically engineered to have properties that natural materials just could not have. A hugely useful example comes from the form of thermal metamaterials. These improve heat pumps by using improved heat transfer and direction for more efficient heating of homes. Additionally, there's metaglass, which, having a negative refractive index, allows it to be used in super lenses to see beyond the scale of what was thought to be possible. Metamaterials are efficient, and they have begun to become implemented in the engineering industry. However, despite this, energy use still continues to rise. This graph here shows a 2.2% increase from 1995 to 2019 in global energy use consumption per annum, with the trend continuing into this decade. While this may seem an insignificant number, when taking into account the entire worldwide energy usage, the numbers start to mean a lot more. But this begs the question, why does this happen? This graph shows an economic concept called Jevons paradox. Jevons paradox states that product overconsumption is due to an increase in product efficiency. Essentially, what this means is that the more efficient that harnessing energy becomes and that production of things becomes, the more that we will use them. Consider, for example, the switch from petrol cars to electric cars. Data from UK company Celeracap HPI in a study ran in 2024 showed that electric vehicle drivers drive on average 1,000 miles more than their petrol vehicle counterparts. This can be traced back to the fact that EVs are more green and efficient. People believe they can get away with driving more for the same fuel and environmental cost. Jevons paradox shows us that the issue isn't becoming more efficient, but changing our approach to resources entirely. But why does it happen? One phenomenon, called temporal discounting, provides solid evidence as to why. It is the tendency to value rewards less the further they are in the future, no matter whether those rewards are greater or worse. A study ran by American psychologist Walter Mischel in the 1970s involved children being seated at the end of a table and given the option to eat a marshmallow. Crucially, they were told if they waited just 15 minutes, they would get a second marshmallow. Surprisingly, only 10% of the children waited and got the second marshmallow. Temporal discounting is deeply rooted in our psyche, and we see it all the time, like with, for example, procrastination. I'm sure you've all had an essay or assignment during a couple of weeks, and without thinking, you think, I've got so much time, or I don't need to start it now. And once those weeks have flown by and you haven't written as much as a single word, you begin to panic. I'm guilty of this too, but this is the trap of temporal discounting. And when dialed up to the size of a star, it can become much more dangerous. A hypothetical thought experiment proposed by Freeman Dyson in 1960 is called the Dyson sphere. This megastructure involves a system of billions of solar panels which surround the sun or any star and allow us to harness its solar energy and beam it back to Earth. If real, it could power entire civilizations with just a fraction of the available energy that we would have. This sounds ridiculous, right? Well, what if I told you Japan are working on their own Dyson sphere-like structure? The project is called the Lunar Ring, and it consists of a 7,000-mile-long ring of solar panels which surrounds the circumference of the moon. And it works in a similar way to the Dyson sphere. And Japan are hopeful to start production on this in 2035. Now, this all seems incredible. Surely there has to be some kind of issue. Surely this is too good to be true. Unfortunately, it might be. The implications with a project like this, harnessing so much energy, is that people will become complacent and wasteful. After all, if we have so much energy just sitting in space, what harm is wasting only a little bit going to do? Well, what if every one of the 8 billion people on the planet waste, even a little bit? This will eventually compile, and eventually the sun's energy will completely run out and will leave future generations stranded with no way to power their homes and machinery. Imagine 200 years or even later down the line, your children and their children having to suffer because of the decisions you made and the unknown consequences that it had. But if humans are engineered to waste, what can you actually do? Throughout this talk, we've looked at many different approaches to efficiency and waste, and we've come to one certain conclusion: that efficiency isn't based on what you do, it's based on how you think. Efficiency isn't just turning off the tap after you're done brushing your teeth or recycling a water bottle after you're done with it. True efficiency requires a proper cognitive shift and intentionality behind our actions. It has to be a consistent effort, and we can look to one culture to show us just that. In Japan, there is a term called mottainai. This directly translates to a feeling of regret over waste. You know that feeling when you have a half-eaten burger or an old pair of shoes and you're about to throw them out? But as you lean over the bin, you hesitate and feel guilt. You realize the intrinsic value of the object. This is mottainai. But how does it relate to efficiency? Well, how you view that half-eaten burger is how you should view energy and resources in general, as valuable, but most importantly, finite. Wasting comes from our current complacent attitude towards resources. Overconsumption without reason or intentionality will just cause a crisis akin to the Dyson sphere situation that we discussed earlier. It will only cause more problems later down the line. And that is the real waste. Thank you.